Hey, what's up guys? Tim here. Got another tutorial for you today, and this one is definitely not for the faint of heart. This is the Bane's cuff. I'm not sure the originator of this pattern or weave is because I found this via a picture tutorial on Google. But anyways, so I want to give you guys a quick close-up look before we get started. Did this one in the rust and charcoal gray. There's the back side. Very wide weave. But at the same time, it's not too thick, so still very comfortable to wear. And of course, we are doing the knot and loop closure. You can, of course, do this with buckles, but I don't currently have the appropriate buckles for this. So we're just going to do knot and loop for now, and we might revisit it down the road for buckles. One thing I did not mention in the video, and I learned later, that if you want the ridge, the center ridge of this bracelet to be more pronounced, you have to pull the twist tighter. You'll know what I mean when we get into the method, but just wanted to mention that, get that out of the way. So I'm a huge fan of The Dark Knight Rises and the whole Christopher Nolan Batman series, so this was really fun to make, really fun to wear. And I wasn't sure if I'd be able to pull this off because of its complexity, but you know, managed to do it. And I do suggest you guys use a jig for this one. If you don't have a jig, there's other ways you can set your paracord up, like a mock jig, just to make things easier. Alright, so that being said, let's get into the tutorial. Alright, so I got my paracord ready, and again I just want to warn you guys that this is definitely not for beginners. I'd say it's definitely towards the advanced side just because of the complexity of the weave, and it is very, very finicky. And also you'll be working with a large amount of paracord, and your cords will be very long, so just take that into consideration. So in terms of colors, I'm using rust up here and the charcoal gray. My charcoal gray strands are 3 feet each. These are going to form the core of your bracelet. So it'll start up here, and you'll weave all the way down, so that you'll determine your length with these core strands. And then the main weaving will be done with my rust color, which is about 15 feet. Now, please do stick till the end because I can determine how much wastage there will be. I haven't fully done this bracelet to its completion yet, so just be aware of that, okay? So now I'm going to suggest that you use a jig for this. If not, if you don't have a jig, I suggest you set up your paracord so that you have like a mock jig, and I'll show you guys how I'll be doing that in a second. Okay, so to start off for this bracelet, we're doing the knot and loop method. I currently don't have any buckles that are the proper width, so I may revisit this weave if you guys want to learn how to do this with buckles, but we're doing knot and loop for now, okay? So we're going to start off with the middle point of our main color, right here, and we've got the midpoints of our 2 core strands. And what you're going to do is going to lay the midpoint of the rust on top of the gray, and you're basically going to do a cow's hitch. Alright, so I'm going to take the 2 here and put it through like this. Okay, so you're going to pull all that cord through. Now again, I am working with very long strands, so I said you just bear with me while I pull all this through. Like that. Okay. Now, next you're going to take the strand on the right side here, and you're going to make it go around and through this loop here. And you're going to take this strand on the left, you're going to bring that around and through the cow's hitch area like that. Okay, so this is it's a way of kind of binding both the strands, all the strands together, so that you have a 4-strand core with an additional 2 cords that you're weaving with. Right, so I'm just going to pull all this through. That's one side through. Now I'm going to take the other side, put that through here, like this. I'm pulling all this through like that. So this is what you should have right about now. I know it looks a little confusing, but it's basically the 2 gray on the bottom here. You got your cow's hitch and both strands that went through. Okay, so now I'm going to tighten this up, and this is forming the loop part. Okay, so you'll just have to play with this a little bit to make sure you get the desired size. You can kind of tug on both strands. I'm going to make sure you have the right loop size. Okay. You definitely want these strands as close to the center as you can. Okay, so that is where you should be now. Okay, so next part now, setting up to weave. You can do this kind of free without a jig, but I'd highly suggest against that, just because it's easier to get the weave nice and tight if you have a jig. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my gray strands are even, all along the bottom here. Make sure they're even. And you see this big clip I've got here? I'm actually going to pinch this against my table. So this is dependent on the surface you're working on. I'm going to clip all the gray strands on one end of the table that's just right here. And then up top here, I've got a piece of paracord. You can't really see it, but it's actually just hitched to my monitor, which is heavy. And I'm going to hitch that up here. And then the gray strands, the core strands, not the rust, only the gray, will be pinned to my table. And that's going to form my jig. All right, so now I'm ready to go. So I got my paracord set up. I've got some tension on my makeshift jig. So now you've got your two rust strands, your brown strands on the outside. So we kind of want them on the inside. So the way you're going to start this weave is by you're going to take the left over the right. You're going to twist it once, and then you're going to twist it again. Okay? So you're starting with a twist like this. Okay? And then next, actually I'm going to move all my paracord through to one side. Okay, so next, this is the main weave. So you're going to be working with alternating strands. So on this side, we're going to go in front and on top of the two core strands on the right side. You're going to put your brown strand through these two middle ones, like that. And I'm actually going to pull all the cord through just to make it easier to show you guys, but later on I'll show you how to do it faster. Okay, so I went behind the first one. Then next we're going to go in between this one here, this gap in the middle, like that. And then we're going to go through this final gap here. Okay, so we went behind this strand, up through the middle, and we're going through this space here, and then behind this one here. Okay, I know this one's a little confusing, but again, this is not for the faint of heart, and it is a bit more advanced. So I'm going to pull all the cord through, like this. Now this is where it gets a little tricky. You want this strand to be vertical here. And it's not going to want to do that, but you'll just have to kind of play with it and get the knot like that. Okay? You want this knot up like this. See how it's making almost like a little cross this way? Just want it like that. All right? So that's one side. Now, it is quite tricky to keep this weave tight. You'll have to work through all the excess like I'm doing here. See how I'm just kind of tugging on this strand, then I pull it through like that. Okay, so that was one side. And then now we're gonna move this aside. All right, so that's what you should have on one side so far, like this. Now, next, you're gonna do the same thing, but it's mirrored on this side. So again, we're going to go strand over top, two core strands. We're going to take this behind and through this gap here. I'm going to pull, oops, moving my mat, pull all the cord through. And again, it's just for clarity. Okay, so we went behind and through the middle like that. And then we're going to take the end of our strand. Sorry, it's a problem with working with long strands. Okay, we're going to take this end here and go through the two middle, in between the two gray strands, like that. And then we're going to go through this gap here. Okay. I'm going to pull all that through. And again, you want the knot here to be vertical like that. So you want this kind of cross shape like this. That way you know you've done the knot right. Okay, and again, see how this excess here? I'm gonna pull that through the knot like that. And this is why this weave is just so time consuming, because you have to constantly work all the excess out. Okay, so I'm probably not going to tie this one super tight just because I'll have to go back and redo it, but this is just to show you where you guys are now. Okay, so that's the first set of knots done. Now we're going to just repeat that process. Okay, so it's you're going to take the left again over the right, cross over once, cross over again, so you're twisting them together like that, and then we just repeat what we did. Okay, so again, I'm just going to tie this one loosely just so you guys can see it. And you know how I mentioned you don't have to put the strand all the way through for each knot, just because you'll be constantly pulling all the excess through. What you do is you just take a bit of it through like that. So we went behind that one, then we're going to go through here and through here. So it's going over top here and then through here and through here. I'm just going to take the cord itself and just feed it all through. I'm not going to find the end and then put it through, simply because that is just too time consuming. So now I only have to pull it through once, because you're working with such long cords, right? And again, you want to have to manipulate the cord so that that knot becomes vertical like that. Okay, I'm going to push it all the way up like that. Okay, so now keep this one out of the way. So that's the fourth knot. And again, I'm just going to show you guys one more time. So behind, and then over top the middle here, like that, and then through this last gap here. Alright, so as you can see, I've got two sets of knots tied. I'm just going to continue going all the way down my 4-strand core. I would suggest that you do your diligence by, continually working all the slack out, and with your thumbs just kind of push up on the weave, because that keeps the knots really nice and tight and together, and eliminates any of those little spaces. Alright, so I'm just going to keep going, and if any of that previous part was confusing, just do a rewind, and you can refer to the still image as well. Alright. Alright, so I'm done weaving. I've woven enough of my bracelet. And now I suggest that you stop weaving a little earlier than you think you'll need it. Meaning don't weave too much of the main bracelet, mainly because the way we finish this, it's going to add on about, I'd say about half to maybe 3/4 of an inch of length. So it might end up too long when you finish it. But you can play with that. So if it's too long when you finish, go back, take away a few knots and redo it. Alright, so this may seem a little daunting because we've got 6 strands, but what we're going to do first is start on the left side. You take the outermost strand, and you're going to tie 2 cobra stitches using this second strand here as the core. Right, so we're going to do the outermost strand over that one. Then we're going to bring the rust over. And as you can see, I've got quite a good amount of excess, so we'll factor that in to the measurements earlier. So that's 1 cobra stitch. And then we're going to do one more. I'm going to get this one pretty tight. Do a second stitch like this. So that's 2 cobra stitches, just over that one single strand there. Okay, so now we're going to do the same on the other side. So get that out of the way. Do the same on the other side, except you're going to use the outermost strand. Okay, so 2 cobra stitches. So pretty sure you guys can see where I'm going with this. Do 2. That's 1. It's always a little finicky with all these strands. And then we do a second one. And I know that wasn't very clear, but you guys can see what I'm doing. All right. So this is where you should be now. So we wove 2 cobra stitches on each side, and now we're going to take these 2 strands, this one, and of course you can see we're going to finish off and bind these 2 middle rust strands by doing another 2 cobra stitches over the last 2 strands in the center. Okay, so I mean, if these get twisted, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it'll help close up that end there. So make sure you're tugging on the right one. Okay, let's do one more. That. You can also push this up a little bit. All right, so you can see that's how we finish off the end. And what we're going to do now is, you can pretty much guess what we're going to do, but we're going to cut off the excess on the sides. And now that we're left with 2 strands down here, we're going to tie our 2-strand diamond knot, and that'll be the clasp for our loop, and we'll be finished. So I'm actually going to shorten these lengths because they're too long, and then I'm going to tie the 2-strand diamond knot. Alright, so I snipped and singed off all the excess, and I shortened my 2 brown strands at the end. I actually did end up with about a good 2 feet of excess or wastage, so you can factor that into your bracelet when you're making it. So now I'm just going to quickly go through the diamond knot, and of course we'll always annotate my dedicated tutorial for this knot. I just want to go through it quickly anyway. Right, so loop over the 1 strand, over, under, over, made our carrick bend, bring this strand around through the center, and bring this one around past here through the center. Alright, and then pull. Alright, so now we just adjust our knot. So I'm just going to adjust this to the right spot. Of course, we all know how to do that by just pulling the excess through. So I'm just going to finish that up and finish up this diamond knot, and then we'll be finished. Alright, there we have it, guys. I'm done. Alright, so I placed my knot in the right position, snipped and singed the excess. Just want to give you guys one last close-up look at this weave pattern. Really nice, quite complex, and definitely the most complex tutorial I've done to date. There's the back side. It kind of looks cool on that side too. Anyways, that's about it. So I know this one was a bit of a doozy, but I want to thank you guys for sticking with me if you made it this far along. Definitely give this one a try if you want to try something a bit more challenging in terms of paracord weaving. So that's about it. I hope I've explained everything clearly and concisely. If you guys have any difficulties, comments, or questions, again, please leave the comments down below. I'll be sure to get back to you as soon as I can. And yeah, again, thank you for watching. If you guys haven't already, please do subscribe, like, and share. That would help me out a lot. And I'll see you guys on the next tutorial video. Right? Bye.
Theatricality and deception, powerful agents for the uninitiated. But we are initiated, aren't we, Bruce? Members of the League of Shadows.